The S&P at 8,500. I know, we're currently at 7,400. Let me show you how we're going to get there. So take a look at this chart. First, you've got the candles, right? So green means up and red means down, where the open and the close were. Second, the blue line. This is the 50-day moving average. All it does, it takes the closing price of the last 50 trading days and average them. It's smooth at the noise. Right now, that line sits at 700 or so. Remember that number, right? It's going to matter a lot because it's a market floor at the moment. Third, the left side of the chart, the part labeled initial move, back in April, the market bottomed out and then went on a run. It climbed from roughly 6,750 to roughly 7,620. There's a gain of 870 points, 13% in about 2 months. Fast, steep, relentless. Now, fourth, look at the yellow triangle, the part labeled consolidation. Since the start of June, the market has done nothing, or at least it looks like nothing. The top of that triangle is flat. The market keeps running into the same ceiling around the record ride, and when it gets to high, and then it getting rejected. But the bottom of that triangle is rising. Every dip is getting bought a little bit higher than the dip before it. Now hold on to that because that shape is the entire story. A flat ceiling and a rising floor mean the sellers are asking the same price every time, but the buyers keep raising their bid. The two lines are converging. They are running out of room. Something has to give. And that shape has a name on the trade. It's called an ascending triangle. It is the market's version of a compressed spring. The energy is not gone, it is stored. Fifth, the two gray arrows that you see, right? And the numbers 8. Here is the arithmetic, and it's genuinely fourth grade stuff. Whenever the initial move, 876 points, and they took that exact same distance and stacked it on top of the ceiling of the triangle. 7,600 plus, that gives you around 8,500. And that's where the target comes from. Right? It's not astrology, it is a rule. And I want to be very straight with you about the limitation here because it is where most channels, lie to you about omission. This measurement is a projection. It's not a promise. It is what the pattern implies if the market breaks out of the current top of that triangle. If it never breaks out or if it falls out of the bottom instead, the 8,500 was never a target, it was a doodle. The pattern does not create the move. Earnings and money create the move. The pattern just tells you where the move would likely stop if it happens. So the real question is not, is 8,500 right? The question is there enough fuel in this economy to actually make that break happen? Which is exactly what we're going to do next. So to be clear here, I'm saying we're going to be at 8,500. What I'm saying is, based on what we've seen in the past, right? The projection looks like an 8,500 purely on arithmetic basis. But I have to tell you one thing: the market is not predictable, but it is not random. So keep that in mind. So let's take a look at this chart to see how much fuel there is, right? The news, as we remember, inflation so far has came in cool. The June consumer price index actually fell 0.4% in May. Year over year, it slowed to 3.5%. That's a real miss in the good direction, and a big chunk of it came from gasoline. So the market's reaction was immediate. The out of the Federal Reserve raising rates at the July meeting, which is tomorrow, collapse quite a bit. And this matters more than it sounds because most of this year, the fear was not that Fed would cut slowly, is that the Fed would actually hike. And because the Fed chair is not saying anything, well, people are assuming the worst. So then, of course, we had the story about Taiwan Semiconductor, which reported, TSMC I'm talking about, which reported good quarter. And then it said it was going to spend $64 billion on capital investment this year, up from the prior guidance of 56, and the market read it as the AI built out is getting more expensive than we thought. Chip stocks fell more than 4% of the group. And then Alphabet slipped over 4%, or some kind of, with a similar story, right? So, but beneath all of that, and this is a part almost nobody reported, the economy printed some genuinely excellent numbers. Jobless claims fell to 206,000. The forecast was 218,000. So it's not a cooling labor market. It's a labor market that is refusing to break. The Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Survey came in at 41.4, right? It's a diffusion index, but 41.4 is 5-year high. Factories in the Mid-Atlantic are the busiest they have been since the pandemic reopening. Retail sales rose 0.2%, right in line. So the average stock had a good day. The index had a bad day. That gap exists for exactly one reason. A handful of enormous chip and tech names carry so much weight that they can drag the whole index down. So this is not rot, this is rotation. Money is not leaving the market, it is changing seats. So if you look at the chart, you could see every single bar is above. The red line is where the Fed wants inflation to be, and nothing is there yet. So the green bar, which is 3.5%, is the good news. That's a line number. It's the lowest bar in the inflation group, and it just came down. Then you have the two red bar, which is PPI, and at 5.5 and 4.7% are producers' prices, what companies pay before they charge you. They're still high. This is inflation that has not shown up in your receipt yet. Then you have the blue bar, which is what the government pays to borrow. 30 years at 5.1, and of course your 10-year, which is your mortgage. So one thing to take away, it's not that it's mission accomplished chart. It's a moving in the right direction from a bad place chart. That distinction is worth 12% on the index. Now, next, let us take a look at the historical perspective, right? So over the same 12 months, the index has traded as low as 6,212 and as high as 7,600. That high was set in June the 2nd. And here is the thing worth noticing. We have been within 1% of that high for 6 straight weeks, and we have not broken it. Now, what does the ascending triangle keep showing in market history? And why do people take it seriously? Because it describes a real human behavior, not a mystical geometry. Think about who is actually selling at 7,600. A lot of them are people who bought earlier. They are sitting on a nice gain and have decided that is enough for me. They put in a sell order at a price. When the market reaches it, they sell. Supply appears, price stop. This is a flat ceiling. Now, think about who is buying the dip. They are people with cash who have concluded that this market is going to go higher, and they are afraid of missing. Every time the market pulls back, they step in. But because they're afraid of missing it, they step in earlier each time and higher each time. That is the rising floor. So what the triangle actually measures is a war between a finite group of people, finite, and an impatient group. And here's a historical asymmetry. The sellers eventually run out of shares. The buyers do not run out of nerve until they are actually hurt. That is why historically these patterns tend to resolve upward more often than downward when they form during an up rather than at the end of one. Not the caveat. This is not a guarantee. It's a tendency to get you paid over 100 trades and get you crushed on your single one. Where does the measured move idea itself come from? Well, it's one of the oldest ideas on Wall Street, okay? It goes back to Charles Dow and the earlier 20th century chartists, and it survives for a single reason. When a market pauses in the middle of a trend rather than at the end of one, the second leg of the move often runs about as far as the first because it is driven by the same underlying force, the same story, the same money flow, the same set of people who are still not fully invested. The first leg was the people who believed early, and the second leg is the people who could not stand watching anymore. So the measured move is not really a prediction about price, it's a prediction about how many people are still on the sideline. So let's take a look at the engine room, and this is where it gets genuinely unfashionably optimistic. And I want to be careful because optimism is not a personality on this channel, it's a conclusion you earn from the numbers. A chart pattern is a story about what people think. Earnings are a story about what people actually collect. So let's look at what they are collecting. Second quarter earnings for the S&P 500 are currently estimated to grow 23.6% compared to a year ago. So the long-run average for corporate earnings is somewhere around 8%. 23.6 is roughly 3 times. And it gets better in a way that almost never happens. Back on March the 31st, the start of the year, analysts were expecting 18.8%. They have raised that number to 23.6%. That is backward from how this normally works. In a typical quarter, analysts cut their estimates as the quarter goes on. Over the last 5 years, they have cut by an average of 2%. This quarter, they went the other way. Revenue, actual money in the door, not accounting engineering, is expected to grow 12.2%. If that holds, it is the fastest revenue growth since the second quarter of 2022. All 11 factors are expected to grow revenue, not 2, not the mega caps, all 11. And all the companies that had reported through July of 10th, 89% beat their estimates. And they beat by 14.5% on average. So looking forward, the estimates are for 26.8% growth in the third quarter and 24% in the fourth. For the full year, we're talking 24%. Now, here's a counterweight because, I owe you both sides, obviously. The forward price to earning ratio is about 20.4. Translation, you are paying for $20 for every dollar of profit the market is expected to make over the next year. That's expensive. That is above the 5-year average. It flips around to a yield about 5%, and you can get 30-year treasury at 5.1% right now with the full faith of the United States government. So stocks are not obviously cheap against bonds. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. But, and this is the pivot, a 20 times multiple on 8% growth is a bubble. A 20 times multiple on 24% growth, the discount. And this is the single most important difference between now and the year 2000. In 2000, the multiple were enormous and the earnings were a rumor. Today, the multiples are high and the earnings are landing in the bank account. That is not the same disease. Which brings me to the thing that actually keeps me at night, and it's not the multiple, it's a concentration. Chips are now about 20% of the S&P 500. 3 or 4 years ago, they were 8%. The top 10 are roughly 38% of the entire index. That is a number that turns a chip story into an index story. And that's what happens. So let's take a look at the 4 scenarios here, right? Because I think I owe you that. And so you get a better feel for what's going to potentially happen. So road 1 is the bull case, right? That's a green one. Target 8,500. I put it at 27%. How it happens? Well, the Fed sits still in July, which is tomorrow, which is already an 83% bet. Earnings land where facts say they land or better, given that 89% of companies have been beating. The chip scare turns out to be exactly what it looks like, a spending story, not a demand story, right? I mean, think about this for a second. And I tell that to my members every day, and don't forget to subscribe and become a member because I offer 10 separate tools to help you manage. And basically, it's a story, not a demand story. What does that mean? Well, if nobody wanted the product, you got a problem. Here, you're saying you're spending too much. I'm not too worried about things like that. Money that has been hiding in the average stock keeps rotating. Breadth stays positive, and the market finally clears 7,620. Once that ceiling goes, everyone who has been waiting for a pullback has to chase. 12.8% from here. It is very doable in 5 months. This market has already done 13% in 2. Road number 2, the base case. Well, that's 7,900. 42% chance. Most likely outcome. How it happens? Well, the market grinds. It breaks a ceiling, but it does not sprint. Chip stays choppy, keep capping the index while the other 490 companies do their actual work. Inflation keeps improving slowly, but the PPI at 5 points keeps the Fed finger near the trigger, so the multiple cannot expand much. You get earnings-driven upside. Boring, but boring is what market usually do. Road number 3 at 23%, the bear case, right? Target 7,050. 23%. How does this happen? Well, this one starts with the triangle breaking the wrong way. The market loses the 50-day moving average and the rising flood the triangle. What causes, most likely the AI capital spending story. It gets out of control. TSMC just raised its spending forecast. If 2 or 3 more companies do that, while revenue does not follow, the market stops calling investments and starts calling it a whole. And with chips at 20% of the index, that's a problem. And of course, you have the black swan, road number 4. That's 6,300, 8% chance. How did this happen? It's not the market goes down. A black swan is a thing that is not on anybody's list. It is not the Fed, it's not Iran, it's not the chip capex. It's something that nobody knows yet. What I can tell you is where the structural fragility sits, because that is where the damage would land. 38% of this index in 10 companies, that's a problem. 8% is not a small number. 8% means roughly 1 year in 12. Most people, portfolios are built as if it was 0, and that's a problem. And here's a reframe. This is the whole philosophy of this channel in one sentence. The black swan scenario is the reason the other 3 are investable. Because if you have genuinely prepared for the 8%, if you have bought the cheap insurance of a VIX at a VIX of 16, if you have sized correctly, if you have cash you have not deployed, then you get to hold your position through the noise and actually collect the 27% bull case. So let me leave you with the honest version of everything we just covered. 8,500 is a ruler. It's not a prophecy. Somebody measured a move, stacked it on the ceiling, and got a number. That number is only real if the ceiling breaks, right? But here's why I learned constructively rather than fearfully. And I want to say it plainly. Inflation is cooling. 3.5% below expectation. The Fed is very likely to sit still tomorrow in July 29th. Jobless claims are at 208,000. Philadelphia factories 5-year high. Corporate profits are growing. This is not a market that is dying. This is a market that is arguing for itself about who gets to lead, who the boss. The risks are real. Chips are 20% of the index. That's a problem. But there is the 8%, the thing none of us can name, which is the 8% that could cause a crash. So the answer is not buy, and it is not sell. The answer is 7,620.9 at the top, 7,453 point at the bottom, and the Fed meeting tomorrow. Write those 3 things on something you can actually look at, because the market is not asking you to be right. It's asking you to be ready. And ready is a thing you can actually be. The prepared investor does not need to know the road, which road we take. The prepared investors has priced all 4 roads. And take that to the bank.